Hey, Kathy, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Bede?
Yeah. I just wanted to bring up with you today the issue of fear, because in my life I can see that sometimes I can suddenly have the experience of being afraid of death, or I'm afraid of some worry in the future, or I might be afraid of the fact that I might get rejected. Do you know what I mean? Or I might be afraid of all sorts of things. Do you know what I mean? And these fears pop up, and when they happen, they're happening in front of me. They're like the experience that I'm having, and I find myself trying to fight them and trying to fix them up. Do you know what I mean? Change it, because if it's fearful, I want another experience to replace that experience. So I'll maybe I've tried many things before I you know before I about before 55. I used to struggle with myself, and I'd struggle with the experience, and I might deal with fear through reading books, watching YouTube videos, various things I would use to try and deal with this fear. Do you know what I mean? So I would be trying to deal with it, because it was always the feeling of it's happening to me. This fear is coming, and I just don't like it. And if only it would go away, because it's an object in front of me that I struggle with, right?
Hmm.
And it seems like that the problem is the fear as I'm experiencing it. It seems like that experience of fear is my problem. Yes, I'm just afraid of the future. You know what I mean? Or I'm afraid of that. What will when I die, is it going to be painful? You know what I mean? Whatever it is, it seems to be the problem seems to be the experience I'm having. This experience that's happening in front of me. Can you comment on that?
Yes, and this really brings up what I often refer to the course as is a course on cause and effect. So
Hmm.
we've all had the experience of fear. We've all believed that that fear was caused by something outside of us, whether it was a person, whether it was an idea, um, a fear of the future or a concept or something. But we see it
Hmm.
outside of us. And so, in doing that, we seek to address our fear with something outside of us. How am I going to fix this? I want to fix this fear. I don't want to feel it anymore. If I
Hmm.
believe the cause of it is outside of me, I will look for the solution outside of me.
Yeah, that's 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 something that is something that it's a very convincing experience that it is happening in front of me, and that
Yeah.
it is the problem. And if that problem that's happening in front of me would go away, I would be happy. It seems to be it seems to be that way. There's a
Yes.
sort of a seems to be.
Yes, and Jesus addresses that in the course, and the whole course is basically a very well presented argument to show us how the cause of our experience is not outside of us, at least to raise a question so that we follow him down that path where we can see the cause of my experience is not outside of me. So when we're willing to question that belief and go within, and follow the course's guidance, we can see that it's impossible that the cause of our fear be outside of us. And that what has really happened is that we have made a choice, forgotten we made the choice, and are experiencing the consequences of that choice. And it will never really help us to seek outside of ourselves for the answer to our problems, to the answer to our experience. We can see that by our experience because even if we solve it in one instance, it comes up again.
Right. So even though it appears that that it's a many-headed hydra, there's this fear, there's that fear, there's this fear, there's this fear, right?
Hmm.
What the course says is that no, there's only fear, but that fear isn't located with the experience we're having in front of us. The fear is what we're actually being. We're actually being the darkness and the fear itself. So that if we and it's this fear that we are being unknowingly being, because we think the fear is this, but this inward condition of fear. You talked about the other, I think the one of the past talks, that But what we want to do, that this fear is one problem. One
Hmm.
problem. I am alienated from God, separate and
Hmm.
apart from God. What goes with that is a tremendous fear. And that, so I've got one problem, even though it appears all these different things in front of me. So I have to look at that one problem, that yuck, that the fear itself
Hmm.
with Jesus in order to see through it, to go through it, not to conquer it, get rid of it or whatever, but to actually see uh, what the course talks about, looking at it with Jesus. So if you could, so here I am. I'm no longer now fighting and blaming all of this for anything in front of me. That has to be the first step of forgiveness, right? There's nothing
Right.
in front of me that's coming. Now I arrive at me as wrong-minded,
Hmm.
and now I've got to what you talk about. I have to look at that wrong-mindedness without denial. I'm not going to go, well, actually, I'm a child of God and everything's happy, 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 right?
Hmm.
The fact is, I'm being the fear. I see I'm enclosed in fear. Now I want to look at that fear, which I am being, with the eyes of Jesus. Can you speak to that?
Yes. And I kind of want to reiterate some points that you just made first. Yes,
Hmm.
nothing outside of us gave birth to fear in us. It seems to be a catalyst, the antagonist for us, but the fear was always there. And the fear is the denial of truth, the denial of what you really are. So when you deny that you are love, you are left with the opposite of that only through the process of denial. So what Jesus says in the Course is, don't ask me for help with your fear. I know it's not real because he only knows truth, which is that you are love. Um,
Hmm.
I know it's not real, but you don't. Ask me for help with the conditions that allowed the fear to emerge, which always entail a willingness to be separate. So he brings it back to the idea of separation. That's what we need help with. We need help with understanding we made a decision, forgot we made the decision, and experience ourselves as love's opposite, the manifestation of fear itself. And we need his help to undo that decision.
So when you say, so here I am, in the light of the course's teaching, I'm actually willfully, unknowingly, willfully seeking to have a life separate and apart from God because I want to be me.
Yeah.
But implicit in that is fear. So so basically, it's not just that this fear's happened to me. that
Yeah.
that I can't help it. I wish it wasn't there.
Right. I'm a victim.
Oh, what would I can relate to that. I have a lot of evidence of that. That this darkness of fear is me willfully attempting to live a life separate and apart from God. And because it's willful, there's a possibility of another choice. But if I don't see that I'm choosing it, turning to God and asking for help, which is now I'm turning. I'm no longer relying on myself. That little willingness. If I don't see that I am the problem and that I am actively rejecting love in order to preserve my sense of identity,
Yeah.
I'm not going to go, this is ridiculous, and want to choose again, am I? Is that right?
Right. You won't. And I just want to say you did freeze up for a minute, but I did catch the end of that. And yeah, the little willingness to be wrong about everything. I think one of the things that can take seem to take time is to understand that in this self that we accepted, this world that we accepted and want to believe in, we are never going to be happy here. So the instinct with seeking solutions for our problems outside of us is this lingering belief that there is something outside of me that will make me happy. And that can prevent us from asking for help in the conditions that allowed the fear to emerge, the willingness to be separate. We are all willing to be separate.
Right. So not only that'll make us happy, we actually think that this fear is causing me trouble that's over there in front of me. But
Yes.
but what we're talking about is arriving at the one problem that's always there bubbling, but we've denied it. and we
Yeah.
hide it because with this face of innocence, I'm a nice person. Yeah, I'm pretty together. I'm pretty confident and stuff like that. Dare you treat me that way? So much for the
Yeah.
confidence.
Yeah.
But but so what we're looking at is that the fundamental problem. You see, it would be so easy, wouldn't it, for me to bypass the actual recognition that I am being fear itself, because it's a
Mhm.
much easier to kind of go to sort of circumvent it. Oh, I'm a child of God. You're not suggesting that. We start with the experience, which is in front of us, which
Mhm.
and we can look at this because it's, if according to the light of the course's teaching, it's an outward picture of an inward condition.
Yes.
We then, with that understanding, and we may have to pray to please show me that this is not where the problem is, that's me. We may have to start there because we're convinced, yes, it is my spouse, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then we arrive at ourselves with the suffering centered on ourselves. The one
Right.
problem, which is a complete feeling of yuck and fear itself. But
Mhm.
then we have to, but even then, there's still a victimization because I still am not recognizing that I am choosing this,
Right.
right?
Right. We
So
can have
yep,
bodies.
yep. So unless I get to this point where the problem actually is, and then look at it through the eyes of Jesus, I can't choose again. Now,
Right.
so before we go to the third step, is there anything you'd like to add about this? That what we've talked about,
Um,
the externalization here or the
yeah.
problem located with me?
Maybe just emphasize one point that it is not my job. It is not my spouse. It is not my family, my parents. The problem is not anything where I see it, where it seems to be, where I could get a bunch of people to agree with me where it is. It's not in politics. The problem is I'm having a fundamental identity crisis about myself. It's my
Oh,
identity crisis, and that's it.
so it's me. Mm. Now, we have a very interesting, which I found very interesting because I've always been interested in Plato, but is that in this dream, irrespective of that, there's this memory of God's love that is constantly shining. So,
Mhm.
so the problem is also constantly not shining.
Yeah,
it's
right.
it's actively working, right? It's constantly shining. So here I am, I'm enclosed in the darkness. So from within the darkness, I can't, my mind is ignorant and my heart is misdirected because I'm quite willful. I want to have my life. I'm just caught in it. I don't know what to do with myself.
Hmm.
So I have a mind and heart that reflect that. Do you know what I mean? My mind doesn't have the understanding that I am doing this,
Right.
and my heart is not appreciating the presence of God's love. It's disturbed.
Yes.
So from that, I'm helpless in that. So I need to ask because when which I find interesting is that when the light and life, which is Jesus, when Jesus's understanding comes alive in me as my understanding, and
Hmm.
his heart comes alive in me as peace, that's the transformative factor, isn't it? I
Yeah.
can't do the last step, can I?
No, you can't. And I think following him, the first part is seeing that what he says about the ego thought system is what he's saying about the self I identify with. That is the painful part, to see that darkness. And it's not the darkness where you thought, said, or did something that's not very nice in
No.
the world. It is deeper than that. It is a deep
Mm.
darkness. In your rejoicing of any kind, you are celebrating a triumph over God. You're celebrating, I mean, that's
Can you repeat
difficult to
that
hear.
slowly? Can you repeat that saying slowly? Because that was quite
Yeah.
powerful. Go again.
So when he describes us in the
Hmm.
course, it is
Hmm.
very unpleasant. And one of the things he says is, in any time you're rejoicing and triumphing in the world, you are celebrating your triumph over God. If you understood that, would you want that? He also says, in your suffering of any kind, you see your own concealed desire to kill. And so the things that he did, how he describes us is, I think, part of that first step and really seeing what we chose to be. Um,
You mean the
sure.
second step? Is that, oh my God, it's
Oh
just,
yeah, I'm sorry.
right.
Yes. First, the first is the fear, the recognition that we're afraid. And then
Yeah.
really just looking at what we chose without blinders on about what we chose.
Right. So what we're looking at here is, you see, some people go, I'm going to just let go. The fact of the matter is that I'm holding on, and unless I actually see that I'm doing myself in, it's like if you suddenly see you're next to a cliff face, there's no effort to try and avoid it because you see the danger. The thing is,
Yeah.
we don't see the danger, do we? We don't
No.
we don't see that we are the danger to ourselves in
Right.
our willfulness to be separate and apart from God. And it's a very I found that very interesting in the course, this understanding that we we have to, in order to have our own be separate and apart from God, we got to get rid of God, because when there's only God, there's no special me.
Right. Right.
So I actually hate God in order to be me. And so to be me in all my glory, I have to murder God, inverted God. Of course, I can't murder God, but
Yeah.
I have to actively kill this this memory of God's love, because it's saying to me all of the time, really, you're not a real entity. You're just vacuous. It's interesting that the word vanity in Latin means empty.
Oh, that is
Do you know what I
interesting.
mean? So empty. We're empty, but we think we're very meaningful. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, here I am, I'm suffering, so therefore I exist, of course. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but what we're looking at is that we can't, from our darkness, get out from the darkness. We have to be infused with a new understanding. Do you know what I mean? That opens
Yeah.
up to the fact that we're always, whether we knew it or not, embraced by the presence of God.
Mhm.
And when we awaken to that embrace, because we choose it, because we, please come into my life, come into my mind and heart,
Yeah.
that that's why suddenly, I find interesting, here I was caught in fear, and then now I've had this feeling of being at home in God or in reality, and
Right.
in that being at home, there's not the fear. So it proves itself that it was a mirage. It didn't feel like a mirage 5 minutes ago before the process of forgiveness, though.
Yes. And he leads us to that something else. We need that contrast. That's how the Holy Spirit teaches, through that contrast of an experience of something else that is not like the things of this world. And it's all a version of fear in this world.
Right. So we're not, you see, there are some people, I think that they can give affirmations, I'm a child of God and all of this stuff, but when we're talking about the process of forgiveness, we're being real at every step. So we're acknowledging right now, I'm fearful, and I think the fear is the problem, because that's the truth. So
Yeah.
so I've got to have some illumination on that first, before then I'll realize that the problem is centered on me. Now I arrive at myself as fear itself, the one
Yeah.
problem,
Yeah.
not all of the different kinds. See, I got different kinds of fears. Then here I am, I'm in that fear, I'm being that fear. I acknowledge, yes, I'm fear. I just feel, just all there is yuck. I'm no longer thinking it's my spouse, the world is just, I just feel my very life is miserable. And from that, we ask, we look at that through the eyes of the Course. What is the meaning of this darkness? Here I am, well, according to the Course, and I can consciously and deliberately ponder on what this means, in the sense of, okay, it's according to the Course, I want to have my own be, and to have my own be, if,
Yeah.
I'm busy, so busy having my own be, that, but what goes along with that is this terrible fear. Well, maybe this is crazy. And so please help me see that this is true. Please help me see that I'm doing this to myself, because I'm not seeing it. It's only the eyes of Jesus that can see that I'm doing this to myself. I can't go, okay, I'm doing it to myself. That doesn't work, does it?
No. And maybe initially it will only be an intellectual understanding. They
Hmm.
talk about, the Course talks about the Holy Instant, and how when you join with the Holy Spirit's thought system, you leave the Holy Instant with your laughter. Well, what it looks like to us is not funny. So
No.
we would have to see it completely differently in order to to see its trifling cause, and the trifling cause of all of our pain and suffering is a choice we made to be not as we are, to choose to reject our true self in favor of this autonomous, separate being, and believe that we can find the love that we threw away, believe that we can find within, the dream, something that will make it worthwhile. And it is that difficult moment where you have to see there is nothing of value in duality, nothing.
Right. So this gets back to the first principles of the Course. We're at home in God. That's our real ontological, or that's the truth. But we are dreaming of exile.
Yeah.
And so in the process of forgiveness, what happens is we start with the dreaming of exile in a concrete particular part of our life. I'm now arguing with my wife. I'm upset about
Yeah.
my fear or something. So the first thing is through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, I can see, I'm dreaming now. So even the very perception, I am dreaming, is a spiritual perception. It comes from, it's looking at it with Jesus, because it's looking at it through the eyes of truth.
Yeah.
And that frees me from thinking it's external. I then come back to the one problem that's centered on me. In other words, it's not that I've got this wrong mind that's causing me trouble. I am being wrong-minded because I want to have my own existence. Wapnick said something like, it's the idea I like being me. The ego is I like being me. Right?
Yeah. We don't
And
want to wake up. We just want less pain.
right. So what we're doing is that in the process of forgiveness, we're shifting from the dream to being at home in God. And we end up at that point where 5 minutes ago we were upset with our spouse or upset about a fear, and now we're being peaceful. We don't have past regrets, we don't have future worries, and there's no self-hatred in the present. And so we've arrived at what the Course would say, a state of being which is forgiving, because we're holding nothing against the external world, and we're holding nothing against ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And another thing that Ken would focus on a lot is the resistance, where we'll have that experience and he would say, watch how quickly you go back.
Oh,
Watch
yeah.
you move from this to, I got a grievance again. And that's just the resistance born of that fear of annihilation that we want to be.
I resemble that remark. So so what we're saying is that's why the Course is a moment by moment thing, because I'm either dreaming of exile or I'm at home in God. And so that juxtaposition, so I can now see that, here I am, I'm resting in God, and the next moment something happens, and away I go dreaming again. But now we're not, without denial, without intellectualism. We go through a process because as soon as I am aware that I'm sleeping, that I'm dreaming, that's being mindful, isn't it? Otherwise I might still be stuck, but I'm now mindful in the sense that I'm no longer being dreamed. I'm now know that, okay, I'm caught in a dream, but what's the meaning of the dream? It's an externalization of an inward condition. I come back to my inward condition. I then ask for help, and then when the life of Jesus enters into my heart and the light illuminates my mind, I then am drawn into a way of being in the world which the Course calls forgiving. Is that the story?
Yes, yes. And I should say one more thing for, the moments where we flip-flop back and forth
Mm-hmm.
is the most important thing is not to make a big deal out of them. And I think as you move forward with the memory of the holy instant, of something else in you,
Mm.
then you have that place to go to when a problem comes up, when an
Yeah.
upset comes up. I know what to do now.
Yes, and the other thing is that because you really see it's a dream, you don't go into, because see, this is the interesting thing. My judgment, I can go, oh, there I go, I'm dreaming again. I shouldn't be doing that, which has nothing to do with that.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm seeing suddenly that I'm fallen away again, which I will inevitably do. That's our practice. Seeing the falling away and returning home, seeing the falling away and returning home.
Right.
The fact that I know that there's no self-judgment and there's no self-condemnation here. This is
Yeah.
purely an understanding that is being lived. And that understanding starts when I recognize that I'm sleeping, because that's the eyes of Jesus coming alive in me as my eyes, and I see, hey, I'm dreaming here.
Right. And then it doesn't matter what the dream looks like, what the figures and forms seem to be doing. Maybe it'll look different, maybe it won't. It just will be the investment is we will no longer be invested in that.
Well, that's lovely. Well, this has been really really good, Kathy, and it's a very important issue, and I think this whole practice of forgiveness, the three steps, the recognition that the problem isn't external, the arriving at the wrong mind, and knowing that the problem is me, it's not external, then me looking at it through the eyes of Jesus, and then being lifted into the life that Jesus is as our life. It's such a beautiful thing, really.
Yeah. And
Okay, well, we'll see you next week.
okay, thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.